kid, wear some tights and like see what happens. Or is this all of your own accord? Is what I
well, a lot of it would. I mean, it's the nature versus nurture question, and then the expanding circles of nature and nurture. Like your parents made a big difference. My parents definitely made a big difference because I was the first child, and they were, children of the hippie generation. They weren't full on like wild like hippies. My dad kind of was, but they basically treated me as an experiment. In that, if you're an oldest child, your parents generally will put all their ideals about stuff. They haven't gone through the hardship of raising another kid. So
you literally are an experiment.
Yeah, you are. Exactly. It's two earthlings trying to raise another earthling, being like, okay, well, yeah, sure, you could drop out of high school if you want. And, if you want to run around wearing bare feet. They were nice and encouraging. They saw that I was very passionate about music, and I early on learned how to milk that. It's like, if I just showed them that I was, but it wasn't a false milking. I wasn't like pretending to practice. I was like, hey, if I stay home and I practice my cello for 8 hours a day, will you let me get out of high school? Yeah, no problem. It's cool. So
yeah, I think that was essentially your high school. It's better than high school.
Yeah.
I went to high school in Findlay, Ohio, which I always say, just give that part of Ohio to Canada. I don't think we'll miss it. But I learned that there was a music school up the road, and I was so mad at my parents. I was like, you knew about this and you didn't send me to it? Like, as if I was gonna go into social sciences, you know what I mean? So that's cool. I mean, my parents were really supportive, given the paradigm that they come from. My dad's a Church of God music minister, so he's pretty hip for being in that scene. So I gotta hand it to him. But still, I was like, I knew what I was gonna do. I'm not gonna not do music, so might as well, send me on my way, you know what I mean? Because high school is just like a wash. It was just getting through it, you know what I mean? So.
Yeah, well, I always tell people if you are really certain, some people have like a burning desire to do a certain thing. I mean, I don't know. I'm no one to say get out of high school or don't. I just tell
Sean Eggleston says drop out of high school.
I know. Oh, but I did see a sign on the highway today that said, I can't remember what the caption was, but it was an advertisement for the GED.
A lot of money in it.
Yeah.
So, the first time I saw this guy was on the internet, and it was back when MySpace was around, and he was a top friend of Chris Thiele, who's the mandolin player from Nickel Creek. And so, Chris Thiele has a bunch of Exactly. I bet Chris Thiele thinks you're one of the funniest people ever, huh?
What's that?
I bet Chris thinks that you're pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, he's always been real nice to me. I mean, I heavily idolized him when I was starting to play alternative styles of music on the cello. And one time I got to teach at a workshop in Roanoke, Virginia, and him and me and this guitarist named David Greer jammed for about 4 hours. And I went on a run with Chris, and he was just real nice. He's a real sweet guy. I really like him because he's very encouraging. One of those, kind of charming electric people that's just like, yeah, how could you not like him?
Exactly.
Unless he kicked your dog, but he wouldn't do that.
Yeah, he wouldn't do that. But that's why I discovered Rushad, and Rushad
Either way is cool.
And he had a very interesting MySpace because it was, none of the information was what you thought it would be. It wasn't like, my height is 5'7". It was just like, he had a bunch of non sequiturs. He's big into a certain side. What would you say your language is? He has an alternative language of his own.
Yes, right now it's called the language of Sneth. It used to be called the language of Snee, and I can't make any predictions on what it's going to be called in 5 years from now.
Right.
It's a language that has a personality, much like people, that it can change. Some people change their name to Yamuni. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, hi Sarah, how are you? I haven't seen you in like 10 years. Actually, it's Yamuni. Yamuni, Dosa, Dostra, Dundeen, Dene. You want to hear some Sneth language examples?
Yeah, he has some examples here.
Let's see. Here we go. go. How many bumbies no snoff snoo a snumby? A chucumby cractocroid. Can jambula Lucas Struby and denculoid vivio vimage of Hortorgues. Hey Bob, a bunthia buyer. Oh, amu scumu. Driven icus of Folfathuamir. Jargon Uthia Parsara of Coplunguamir. Unchupialoids Ribney Pipney of Dwyer-esque Hapney Papney with the Rotohortney and a Tabotortney and other inconsequentia.
Alright, give it up. So you were talking earlier about how you ran into a guy who is what you say, I don't want to use the word nonsense, but you said that he was had his PhD in nonsense and that he took a shine to you, right?
Yes, this is an English professor at my college that,
Your college?
Berkeley College of Music, which doesn't, I understand, give him very much credentials as far as being an English professor. But the whole point is that it's a guy that's a scholar in studying language and linguistics and stuff, and he specializes in what he calls nonsense writing, and that has a few different definitions. Some of it is like gibberish in terms of words that you never heard, like thorough-a-galphnies, for example, and some of it is just like, you know, kind of non sequitur based stuff.
Yeah. You guys know what a non sequitur is? It's like non-sequential. Like if I said barn, Obama, Nike, tangerine. Like none of those things make any sense. And so the fun of it is if you can think of the least sensical thing to say after one of another, you can kind of have a good laugh. I do it all the time. People don't understand my sense of humor, and they'll be like, Micah, what do you think? And I'll be like, burp. You know, and it's like, that doesn't make any sense. I'm like, no, it does, because it's funny, because it's the least likely thing that I should have said, right? That's funny to me. You guys are like...
It helps if you say it really excitedly, though.
Yeah, that's true.
If you say to somebody, they're like, what do you think of this, buddy? And you're like, burp. They're going to think that you don't care.
Yeah, that wasn't my best stuff there.
But if you're like, so what do you think about that golf tournament? I'm like, spatulas. Like, oh, he's onto something, but I don't know what it is.
That's what's up. That is the better example of what we're talking about. Suffice to say, there's very scholarly people who think that Rushad's language is something not to be ignored. So, pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So when did you start playing cello? Was it cello from day one?
No, day one was the violin. Little Rushad.
Tut tut tut.
Yes.
And a 1, and a 2.
Yeah, I was 3.
Oh, cool.
Didn't have much say in the matter, or maybe I did. I just don't remember very much. I don't think I was begging my mom to play violin, but I guess I begged her in the way that I showed an interest in music heavily when she put it on the record player and everything. You know.
What were the early records? It's a cliche question, but it's fun to know, you know?
I think it was a lot of Baroque music, actually. Classical music. Paganini, a record of Itzhak
So
Perlman
do your
playing
parents
Paganini.
play as well?
My mom was a flautist,
Okay. For
but
those of you, that means someone who plays the flute. For some reason you don't say flutist, it's flautist. So, FYI, if you ever want to get on with the classical folk, say that, you know.
have you ever eaten a flautist?
I think so.
Yeah, it's like a flute-shaped Mexican food item.
Yeah, it's funny. I thought about it.
Yeah. There's
So-
this correlation, you know, between English and Spanish. It's a conspiracy.
So, at what point did you switch? When you got bigger?
When I was 8, yeah, I was bigger.
So, what was the allure of the cello?
A popular answer to that question is that my younger brother started playing it, and I didn't, you know, at that point want him to be able to do something that I couldn't.
How many brothers do you have, or how many siblings?
Two brothers.
Okay,
They're both younger.
the oldest.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So, when did you start adapting your cello playing to non-typical repertoire?
Pretty early on, actually. I mean, my mom would sit there with the notes she took at my lessons, and it was supposed to be strictly classical, and I started going off into tangents, and then she'd be like, "No, Rushad, you play what you listen." In a very much more stern way. She was very nice, my mom. She bought me these pants. You can see that she embraces my being and personality now. But in the old days, it was like, because she didn't know, she's like, I mean, if you play cello, you play what you're supposed to. You got to learn the way that people have learned the cello, because it's a tradition. Classical music is very serious.
That's the cool thing about you. This guy, I would say, in all my musical travels, I've never seen anyone that embraces the completely zany side of performance and just being out there, but is very strictly learned in the sense that he can fucking play. You know what I mean? Like, it's cool. Like, you don't encounter that. It's usually like stiff. Yeah, right? It's like stiff and boring, and you can't even like cough while they're playing, or else it's insulting, or it's just like a circus, you know what I mean? And Rushad is just like this crazy combination of the two that totally works. And it's just like, as a musician, I'm just like, it's everything I want in one person, one show. It's like, it's not too stiff, and it's not just antics, it's perfect, so.
Thanks, man.
That's why I like this guy, but you can decide for yourself, but yeah, that's how I think of it. Where did that come from? Were you inspired by certain bands, or did you just, like, you know what I mean? Like, what was your, because like, I feel like you're sort of like Salvador Dali meets Yo-Yo Ma or something.
Oh, think about that. Thank you.
You know what I mean?
I think that some early influences probably led me in that direction, and that I was into AC/DC and Primus when I was younger, and you know, the guy from AC/DC runs around the whole time just like he's being electrocuted, and to me that was like awesome, because he never wanted to stop watching. He was just like, so excited, doing knee slides and playing on his back and doing everything, you know. It was like, and I also read an interview with him where he explained the whole philosophy behind that someone when he was little told him that, you know, if you're gonna bend a note, like really like bend a note, like,
yeah, like it's like my dad is a pretty good choral conductor, and he'd always say, like, if you're conducting, you have to be the music. So when you go to see like a big orchestra, there's this conductor, you're just looking at the back of his head, and he's like, dun, 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 right? You know what I mean? And so like in the modern day sense, where there's no conductor, the musicians have to be the music. Like, you have to visually display what you're playing at the same time. And there's not many people who do it better than you, if there is.
Well, I think it's fallen out of fashion with a lot of these, you know.
Yeah.
Which is all good, you know. I think it takes a village, of course. It takes all kinds of people. But that whole thing of embracing the zany side of things, it has been a long evolution. I wasn't always this outwardly zany. Inwardly, it was like a kernel, you know, it's a seed. It's growing, but it started with embracing the fact that that was cool. I can remember one experience when I was 10, and I was in the first chair of my little youth orchestra, which wasn't a particularly great orchestra, it was just a local orchestra, the kids, you know, and I was just like, I don't know what it was, but I was just feeling it, you know, during the concert, and hamming it up and just like really laying into it. And then this old man named Ed Hannon came up to me afterwards trembling, and he's like, "Young man, you play with vigor." I thought he meant vinegar, but I knew it was cool, whatever he said.
Yeah. Missing a note is okay, but playing without passion is inexcusable, right?
Beethoven said, yeah.
It's true, you know what I mean? Because if you play with passion and you completely destroy the music you're trying to play, people are still like, yeah! Because you're putting yourself out there. And that's what we go to see artists, right? To see them be vulnerable and do the things that we sort of like are living vicariously through. And I definitely live vicariously through this guy whenever I see him play. I don't know about you guys. Who else seen Rushad play? Yeah. It's just like, man, I don't want to be that guy. I'm too scared. How does that, because you're not the norm per se, how do you feel? But the cool thing about this guy, I thought about it a lot, because I think about the people who I'm going to interview at the symposium, like you are a wild guy, but you're not like vulgar, you're not crude, you're not like, some rock stars are just like, will go really far to make themselves the center of attention in a way that you'd just like hide your kids' eyes, you know what I mean? But like with this guy, it's like I want to be like, push my kids to the center of the stage when I have them, you know what I mean? Like, go look at this guy, see what he does. What's that, that's like interesting to me. Like how do people take you on the basis of your everyday sort of journey?
Yeah, that brings up some interesting points because in my personal journey, growing up thinking rock stars were the coolest thing in the world, naturally wanted to emulate that. And, you know, talking about Axl Rose and Jim Morrison and Jimi Hendrix, and they're all, you know, famous drug addicts for one, and alcoholics, and all these things that, you know, are not necessarily me or who I was raised as at all, you know. My mom's from India, and she's never even had a sip of alcohol in her whole life. I'm not judging, by the way, I drink sometimes, but the point is that as I started playing rock and roll and getting wild, and I realized that I could do anything I want, it took me a while to realize that I wasn't being myself as much as I was trying to be a rock star and be like that, loud and lewd and just like, you know, doing everything I could.
Obnoxious.
Yeah. I mean, I was obnoxious sometimes, yeah. And I mean, I never got, you know, super into drugs or whatever, but the point is that I was trying to be that guy, like, oh, how wild can you be, and like, how much can you scream, and just like, you know what I'm talking about, probably. But then, and swearing a lot, and singing a lot of filthy songs and stuff. But I realized that, well, probably helps having a wife. Probably helps having a wife, because the wife tends to chill one out and make you realize what's important in life, right? But, yay, wives, sure, give yourself a hand. That's my almost wife. Well, we're not married yet, but we will be soon. Mouse Princess in the back, there she is.
Mouse Princess, hey.
She's joking. Now, but yeah, I realized that as an artist, it's a very special opportunity to be able to appeal to all people. Not in a kind of, you know, real homogenized, like, type of way. Like a G-rated, overtly, like, Barney type of... Yeah, I'm talking about... I love it when I have shows where there's people that are in all decades of age, from 90 down to 7, you know? And it's happened multiple times.
Springfest and MacFest are good for that, I think.
Yeah. So I realized that if I drop the swearing and the, you know, overt sexuality or whatever, I mean, there's still some of that because it's primal, and sometimes you're turning off your mind that's telling you about morals and what you should and shouldn't do, and just embracing this wild tornado of energy, which is important to putting on a good show and to being transcendent. But it's good to have a filter and to not make it so that the kids that are the actual future of the world can't enjoy this wild creativity and stuff that's going on, you know?
That's awesome, man. I appreciate that. That's cool. And the coolest thing is it's still awesome. Like, I don't miss it. Like, you know what I mean? I don't miss, like, AC/DC. Like, I have a funny relationship with their music because it's so misogynistic and this and that, but it's kind of a big joke at the same time. Do you guys listen to AC/DC at all? No? I like it. So literally, I will like tear up listening to AC/DC. It's one of the weirdest things that I tell about myself, but sometimes they rock so hard and it's so beautiful, I'm like, oh my god, it's so...
I'm with you there, it happens to me too.
Right? It's just so musically beautiful. It's like the lyrical content is just ashes compared to like the thing they're making, but at the same time it's like Rushad's music can give me the same feeling, and they're not downplaying, they're not belittling anyone. It's just really fun inventive, imaginative lyricism. Like me and my wife cover Mountain Jumper now.
Oh, do you?
Which is really hard to learn. I still don't know the words, but she memorized it. She sings it in A, by the way. So
oh, really?
Jamming, yeah.
Does she want to come sing it?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. Oh yeah, maybe we can close with that or something. I don't know. But it's just like it's like a fun song about Rushad going out into the hills and jumping around in the trees and doing all this stuff. It's just good imaginative lyrical content set to like a really rocking background. I don't know. It's just cool to hear people doing stuff that equals the sound and intensity and chaos of rock music without all the bullcrap, I guess.
Yeah.
That's why I appreciate that about you.
Thanks, man. No,
Yeah.
that's definitely what my goal is to have a full, wild parade, with infinity parade on the cello, which would naturally include rock and roll.
Yes.
Because it's part of infinity.
Oh yeah, infinity. So I saw a interview that you did where you said maybe since we're beaming everything that we do out into the universe, maybe there's someone on another planet that the whole planet just loves my music, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you go on about that, or was that just like some?
Did I go on about that, or
Could you?
I? Oh, I could go on for hours and hours about that. Yeah, actually.
Do you have any proof, or just intuitive proof?
It's kind of hard to prove that, because I mean, if you were a scientist and you wanted to prove that beings on in other dimensions, which could be occupying, according to modern science, the same physical space as this one, or beings far away that had just super gnarly radio things that could pick up certain specialized vibes. You know, like their tape starts rolling every time they hear my name or something. I mean, I'm not trying to, glorify myself or whatever, but it's my way of coping with my relatively small success compared to what I thought I'd have when I was younger and more bright-eyed on Earth by saying that, But how could you prove it wrong? I don't know, what would you even do as a scientist to devise an experiment like that? You know what I mean? Like you could say, all right, Rushad, well, if they're really listening to you in your next show, tell them that, if they're really listening, they'll suddenly make a bunch of ketchup appear on that wall. But then that implies that we think that they have the ability to come into this dimension, not just listen to the sounds of it, and make ketchup appear on the wall. Maybe they don't have ketchup in that dimension. Maybe they don't have control over this dimension. So it's very hard to prove.
I like that though, because your idea of infinity, if you're really thinking about infinity all the time, then anything is possible. May not be as probable, but what is probable? We're getting far out now.
Yeah, well, I was going to bring it down to earth in a way, in terms of saying that, whether there's actual beings on other planets and in other dimensions that are listening to me and adoring my stuff, or it's just my subconscious, or it's just all in my head, it doesn't really matter. The only thing that matters is the feeling. You know what I'm saying? Kind of like the difference between being on Letterman and being on this couch right here. I think it's all up here, and it would be in your attitude and how you choose to see it. I think it's a positive thing for me to feel that I'm a rock star in other dimensions.
All right. I like it.
Because it gives me self-esteem and confidence, and I'm like, yeah, all right. I can walk down the street knowing that people on other planets know who I am. I'm somebody.
So what would you say is what compels you forward? Because at what point did you? Because I'd say that you're somebody that's really being yourself. Because I don't get the sense that you're just putting it on and then you're not doing it for attention or anything. You're just doing your thing, and it happens to attract some attention. What is that? What's the difference? What?
That's a very good question.
Because I know you're in music, because we're both musicians. So as a musician, you can you get a real strong radar of like, I don't believe it, that's not real. You know what I mean? You get a quick sense of that after you listen to a lot of music. And so how do you incorporate that, or anything to say on that?
Yeah, I feel like it's a constant checking of what you're putting out there and then who you are and how those two compare. Like I was saying about when I was trying to be a rock star, I was putting that on a little bit because I wanted to. I mean, it wasn't like, oh, I think I could fool everybody. It's just like, I was like, yeah, oh no, I'm as cool as Jim Morrison, whatever. Like, I'll get up here and do my strutty thing, you know?
It's like a theatrical mindset, maybe.
Yeah. But the difference between seeking attention and just being yourself, there's also a loophole in the being yourself, which is like, what if part of yourself is liking attention? I mean, a lot of people.
Why do you think I do this?
Right. Yeah, no, everyone needs attention, and everything also has like a, two sides to it, or maybe it's a sphere with many sides into one round, smooth, moon-like surface. It's not quite smooth, but kind of cratered for cheese. It's got cheese. And anyways, because everybody that's going to be on stage, I think, and going to enjoy being up on stage in front of a lot of people, it's kind of likely that they have a bigger ego, so to speak, than other people. But, or maybe everyone has the same size ego and certain people can just handle different aspects of it differently. I'm not quite sure. But for me, the being colorful and this whole thing, if it's an act that happens 24 hours a day that I completely believe in. Because I like wearing this. This is what I wish I saw other people wearing. You know? Not that I get that disappointed when I see people that aren't wearing it, because then I came to realize that it takes a village, you know? And I talked to some other guys that are trying to cure cancer and stuff, and he says, well, I can't exactly go up to people in like a pink polka dotted suit and say, I'm sorry, but your wife just died. You know? I mean, that's heavy, but it's kind of true. So he's like, I can't dress like you, but I feel you. So I'm doing it for those people that can. Yeah.
You should just drop the mic. No, that's cool, man. The lead singer of Arcade Fire said something. He's like, this got so big. He's like, I felt like I needed to get a crazy haircut. You know what I mean? Just for all the people who want to like look at me and be like, oh, I wish I could do that. So there's an aspect to that.
Yeah, totally. Well, when I knew nothing about this guy when Adam, when I was coming here, and just nothing, and I was like thinking that I was gonna have a debate, right? And so when I was imagining the debate in my head, I imagined a really clean-cut Florida politician looking at me and being like, so why do you have long hair and you're like that? I thought he was going to ask me why I had long hair. And I was going to say like, well, because I can. And why do you not shave? It's because I can. And it's like, yeah, a lot of it's because I can. I don't have to work for anybody else. There's not anybody telling me what to do. So that is a freedom to be enjoyed. And one of the wonderful things about living in the day and age, with all the problems that exist in the world now, there's plenty of them and a whole bunch, and also times a million, but I just feel lucky that I can be this weird and get away with it in this society, whereas in a lot of other societies in planet Earth, I would have probably been clubbed or stoned or shot to death or hung, you know, just for sure, you know. So we're lucky that we have as much self-expression as we do, I guess.
Yeah, that's cool. Do you have any like really pending goals or something you really want to do, or do you just like just day to day? You know what I mean? Because you kind of keep evolving. You've done because he was like, because I got really into what they called like progressive bluegrass in college. It's like bluegrass that was hip. All these young guys started doing it, and I was like, this is awesome. And he played in an awesome band called Crooked Still. amazing band. He was one of these, like, you know, it was like he was like the only cellist in bluegrass. That's like showing up to like a rock band with a trombone. Be like, all right, let's play. You know, it's a big deal. It's cool.
Yeah, but then you invent ska.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, this went terribly wrong. But do you have images in your mind of things you want to do that maybe people don't know of, or are you just one of those people who just discovers what you like on a daily basis, or what's your kind of thing like?
That's a good question. I do think about that a lot naturally, and it's kind of somewhere in between. It's a constant battle between the two, really, in my head, in terms of, you know, pulling those mental flips so that you can be totally grateful for what you have at the moment. And for also, it's a good formula for putting on the best show possible. Say I'm playing at somebody's house. I do play a lot of house concerts, or at some small bar with, you know, anywhere between 30, a small club, theaters are better, really, but some small place with between 30 and 130 people. Say, if I go up there and imagine that it's the biggest show of my life and the most important performance I could ever play, and that all kinds of beings on other galaxies are watching, or, you know, some religious people that I know would say, like, every concert's for God, you know, and you're going to go there and you're going to give it all from the bottom of your being, everything you have. To me, that's what true performing is about. You know what I mean? It's not about waiting to get till you're, you know, at Madison Square Garden or whatever. But yeah, it's natural to want to have your picture on a billboard in I-10.
Or even just like creative dreams for yourself. Like maybe you want to tour with a 10-piece band and everybody's, you know what I mean? I don't know if you have any, like, because I have crazy things I could talk about and be like, this is what I want to do, and it's insane. Do you have anything like that? Like you're, because you started out in Cricket Still, then you started Tornado Rider, which is like totally different.
Very different.
And now you're doing your own thing a little more. Is this kind of a phase where you're doing Rushad more?
Yeah, I'm just being solo, playing the cello and singing and dancing and playing some kazoo and every once in a while guitar, but it's a very good medium for me to express my thing, and it changes as I change too.
Sure.
As I change, I can instantly play a new song or even a new style of music that I were to make up, you know, rather than getting a whole band to change or something. You know, you're more limited with ensembles, I feel. But that's, so playing solo is something I could do my whole life. I don't think I'll ever get tired of it, really.
Yeah, totally.
Because if I do, I can just write a whole bunch of new songs. I write a lot of new songs, and those make me happy. They become little friends. They're little fluffy buddies that you come up and you're like, who are you? And it's all, I'm Purple Spatula Parade. And you're like, oh, you're a nice song, aren't you? Little buddy. Anyways, that said, yeah, I would like to write some pieces for orchestras and conduct some orchestras, especially with kids.
I knew there was something. That's what I was waiting for.
To just be up there and be like, nibbus, 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 you know what I mean? And they're all, and then they'd be playing. It would be a good opportunity to have some really beautiful melodies. I like when the ridiculous and the sublime meet and walk down the aisle together. You know what I'm saying?
Can I quote you on that?
Yeah.
All right, cool. I like that a lot. That's kind of where I'm at too.
Yeah.
It's like, what's the word? What's the word for things that are like sacrilegious? You know what I mean? Like those two can't go together. I'm like, that's why they should. You know what I mean? It's crazy stuff and beautiful stuff. I like that. Does anybody have any questions? Concerns? Tracy?
Because you're a fun dresser, what is your favorite piece of clothing to wear? Like I just recently acquired a jacket, and I feel like it's a magic jacket because every time I put it on, it just makes me. Do you have one piece of clothing that makes you?
I've experienced the magic jacket idea before, for sure. Or, you know, the magic underpants idea. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, man. I'll change this. But it is the hat, really. This hat and its brothers and sisters and cousins. I have a few of these shape of hats, and I have been pretty much wearing them I'd say for 90% of all days which have occurred between today and 2007. You know, it's a lot of time.
Cool.
Rushad, I love it when at Mag Fest and Spring Fest, guys like 14, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14-year-old guys will show up in groups with hats on like that.
Yes, it's very flattering to see the youth emulating me, giving me the idea that, because that says something more than just like, oh, it's cool to wear a hat, more than they think I'm cool. It says to me that they could be dressing up like the guys in Kiss, or they could be dressing up like Axl Rose, or they could be dressing up like Superman. But to me, to them, I'm as high in their little pantheon of stars. So that means a whole bunch to me, because I'm like, wow, somebody thinks I'm as cool as a guy that they want to dress up like.
You just provided inspiration for them.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
That's awesome.
Steve-O?
If you win the election, will you support a band?
A ban on what?
Seismic drilling.
Oh, if I was, I'm not running for office because I don't think I have the grit to do that. And my hat is off. I'll take my hat off. Very rare thing to this guy, because that's awesome that he can stand up for a bunch of stuff that people need to.
Yeah. I love that.
I am just a clown, pretty much. You know, I just say what I can in the shadows. You know, I can play it all I want. The only thing I'm ever going to do about it is maybe sing about it, you know. But seismic drilling does not sound too cool. I don't really know what it is, but it sounds like something. It sounds like fracking.
Yeah. There's seismic testing, which leads to drilling. Just basically taking an air horn to dolphins over the whole ocean.
I wouldn't do that to dolphins. They're mammals. We gotta support our fellow mammals. You know what I mean? Rabbits.
Yeah. Lauren?
What question are you